I think you will enjoy them. You will enjoy them so much because they are, big supporters for the arts in Florence and just delightful, absolutely delightful.
Oh, so a suggestion, when you're saying what time these begin, you
Yes.
don't put Honolulu on it.
Put Honolulu time as well?
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
Is
I
that
should do it because I do actually, yes, you're right, you're right.
Yeah.
I
Well, and
will.
Honolulu time would be the same 3 hours earlier than Phoenix. So it's
So-
8 a.m. here,
Oh my
11
gosh.
a.m. Phoenix.
Thank you for, signing in so early for you.
Well, and it also, I mean, I think by putting that down, it makes it look more universal. As you're showing off,
International.
more international.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
You
okay.
look terrific.
Yeah, you look
Thank
great.
you. Thank
You're
you.
a
Oh, I tried, I tried to
You're a
put some
movie
makeup on
star.
and
You're a movie
Yeah.
star now.
my new career, my absolute new career. And my dear friend Monica just tuned in. She's actually in Greece at the moment. Hi, Monica.
Hi. Hi. I
Oh,
second the comment that you look beautiful like a star.
Thank you.
How is Greece?
It's really lovely. I'm in the Peloponnese and I actually went swimming today. The weather is probably like 68, 70 degrees Fahrenheit. And
Well,
it's
we're coming over in May.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Okay.
never have been there. First trip in May.
Okay, where are you going?
The islands and
islands.
Athens. We're taking a cruise from Istanbul to Athens.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Yeah, it's really there's so much here.
We're looking forward to it.
That's great.
Sandy, when will you be back to Arizona?
December 1st.
Okay,
And when
okay.
will you be in Arizona?
So I'm still, trying to get my ticket. So probably by mid-December, I should, I should head over. Yeah, can't wait.
Okay, well, and then you talk about a little
get
party,
together.
a get together.
Yes, yes, yes. Oh my gosh, I would love that. I would love that.
Well, we will make it happen.
Yes, yes. I see Corinne is here. Hi, Corinne.
I don't know why we're.
And hi, Joan.
Hi,
Did you enjoy it last night? Did you have fun?
I did, and I've signed up for Daniela's cookie making workshop.
Okay, perfect. I love that we are connecting, connecting the world one Zoom at a time. Yes. And I see Tina signing in. Hi, Tina. Tina, where are you located? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Hi, I'm in Oxford, England.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. And I see Fausto. Hi, Fausto and Cindy.
Hello.
Hi.
Hey, Laura. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good, good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Any plans to come to Italy soon?
Yes, hopefully. Yes, we have plans to take a month-long trip next year in Europe. So hopefully we'll hit Italy as well.
Yes, yes. I hope it will be something that will happen for everyone because everyone has been postponing their trips for so long. Hopefully next year will be the lucky one.
Fingers crossed.
Well, we're both retired now, so we have time.
Yes, yes, yes. Sounds great. Let's see who else is here. David Wilkins. Hi, David.
Hi, hi.
Hi, Anne. How are you?
Okay.
Let's see how to do this.
So lovely to see you guys. I miss our Liberty Days.
Oh, yeah.
we do too. Yeah, that was great fun.
It was such a great exhibition. Yes, yes. Such a pleasure to work on it. And yeah.
such a great learning curve, which is what every experience ought to be, right? Learn new stuff.
Exactly, exactly, exactly. And our guest tonight will be actually talking about this, you know.
Disappearing blue. Look, you gotta get closer. Oh, that's there. Okay.
All right. I see Stephanie's here as well. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Donna.
Oh.
Hello, hello. Hi, Darlene. Okay, I'm gonna just get a few more minutes as everyone is coming in. Hi, Karen.
Hi.
Hello, nice to see you.
Are you on?
Leslie, hi, Leslie. Let's see, okay. I see Hershey's with us as well. Courtney's
Indeed, I
coming.
Can you hear me? Is everything good?
Yes, I hear you. Hi, hello.
Hello, hello.
Let's give a few more minutes as people are signing in. Hi, Courtney.
Hi, Paula. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for
Good,
joining
just
us.
fine.
Yes. Let's see. You look lovely.
Thank you. I've heard there's some new lockdowns now in Italy. Is that true?
Austria. In Austria.
No, I know it's in Austria as well, because we're planning a trip to Germany and Austria. But I thought that I had read something that there were also some in some areas in Italy, but no.
Haven't seen anything as of today, not yet. So, I mean, you could know more than we do.
Okay.
Exactly. I will keep you posted on that. I really hope not. I see Rosemary and Richard are with us. Hi, Rosemary.
Morning.
Good morning.
Ciao from Toronto.
Hi, Tracy. Tracy Coomer, how are you?
Good, good, Benny.
Thank you for joining us. Okay.
I just wanted to say I'm very glad to be on this. The way I sort of fell in love with Florence and Tuscany and all of that was I read it was a romance novel series, and someone may have heard of it, called Gabriel's Inferno.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually filmed it in parts of it in Florence and the Uffizi and all that, but it's a modern take of it. And anyway, it's very interesting. That's why I sent your information to one of the discussion groups. But there's a streaming service that creates movies out of romance novels, and they have actually done this this series.
Okay.
So anyway,
Perfect. Thank
pretty
you
cool.
so much, Tracy. Thank you for being with us today.
Yeah.
You know what I will say, since it is the hour, I just wanted to say welcome to everyone. And as we proceed, maybe you can also stay later and chat a little bit. And if you get any questions for our guest, of course, put them in the chat. So, buonasera to everyone, especially to our esteemed guest tonight, Hershey Felder. Hershey, how are you today?
I'm good. Hi, everybody. Nice to see you from homeland in Toronto. I see. Is it snowing there? I can see you're walking already in a toque or something like this.
You're from Toronto?
No, Montreal.
Oh, Montreal. Oh, very nice. No, it's actually been a beautiful day in Toronto.
Oh, wonderful. Wonderful. Well, it's nice to see all of you from all over, and I'm happy to be here and answer all your questions and entertain Paola. I have no idea what she's going to ask, but why not?
Thank you, Hershey, for saying yes to doing this.
Sure.
And I was thinking maybe to start with just introducing you. You are kind of a modern era Renaissance man. You're a pianist, composer, playwright, producer, an actor. And I wanted to maybe start by asking you, how did it all start? Do you come from a family of musicians, and how did you discover your extraordinary talents?
Well, extraordinary, I don't know, but if there was a way that it started, it was completely a need to pay rent, quite literally. The idea was that I was a musician and I was an actor and I was a pianist, but one of the things I didn't want to do was to relegate my life to the audition room and the audition table and hope that I was going to work because somebody decided that I looked right, or I played right, or I acted right, or I did this or that or the other thing. So I began very early deciding that I needed to control my own destiny and began creating work and putting it before the public. And in this kind of situation, you have never any idea if anybody's going to like what you do or not, but you go forth. And quite early on, I was lucky. It was one of those things that I just did something that worked for the public, which was George Gershwin alone. And that was the beginning of an adventure that's been 28 years in the making. And considering I'm only 25 years old, it's not a bad thing, you know. So yeah, that's how it all started. It all started with this concept that I was both an actor and I was in the theater, in fact, in Montreal, as I said, as a kid, also on the stage as a pianist. But these two things were not mixed together when I was growing up. And you had to do either both independently. If you're a musician, you were very serious. And if you were an actor, you were a little bit less serious, but you were still a little serious. But none of these things worked together. And I decided that I wanted to do that. And hence I don't sleep a lot. I'm always working, but and working by improving my craft. And that's how it started. And I was been on stage now, I guess, 28 years, working before the public and making movies as well.
Hershey, how many concerts? Is it more than 5,000?
Oh, way more. In the day that there were, well, it wasn't concerts. These were all both concerts and theater. It was way over 6,000 in all those years. Before the pandemic, it was 320 nights a year. And the nights that I was off were largely spread out. So it wasn't, I didn't get a month where I got to do something. It was 2 nights here and 3 nights there, and maybe 5 days to come back to Europe, which is home. And it was a tough life. Pandemic, tragic as it was and continues to be for the whole world, it gave me a much needed pullback from the stage and performing every day and being sick every 3 weeks, because that's just life. If you're on the road, you're tired, you don't eat properly, you get a cold, you say hello to someone and you shake their hand and you touch your face and all of a sudden you're sick. But I pride myself in never having missed a performance in as many years as 28 years or whatever it is. But the pandemic offered me time to stay at home and work on my craft. As terrible as it was, that was my silver lining in this period.
Yes. Hershey, it all started with George Gershwin, didn't it?
It did.
And did you meet the members of his family?
Oh, it was more than that. They tried to sue me.
Really?
Yes. The story is kind of fun. Fun. My very first work in the film industry, strangely, was as the lead interviewer for Steven Spielberg's Shoah Foundation, which was created just at the time of Schindler's List. And I had come into contact with all those survivors and all the people who were part of the film. And I was one of the first interviewers for that whole situation, being a child of survivors myself. And I was at the 50th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. And there was a survivor who told me that he whistled George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue to save his life. Because the Germans didn't know what it was. And he was this whistler who used to whistle to entertain soldiers or Nazis. He was Mengele's little runner boy at Auschwitz. And he told me this story and it was on film, and I turned it into a theatrical evening, and the Gershwins came after me and said, "We don't want you to associate the Holocaust with George Gershwin." I said, "It's a true story." And they said, "Yeah, but we don't want it." So I said, "Well, that's fine. So how about if I just create the character of George Gershwin?" It was kind of like a very silly thing to say. And they said, well, that we'll consider. And I was the first person to create the character of George Gershwin on the stage. And that opened up, my God, in 1997. And the most recent performance I did of that all those years ago, and now it was here at Teatro Verdi in Florence, actually in Italian, fully in Italian, when did I do it? In September. It was my first post-lockdown performance to do George Gershwin alone with American music in Italian for a fully Italian audience and 7 Americans who were here.
Unbelievable. When you start working on a character, I can just imagine the amount of research that goes into something like this. In one of your interviews, I read that you met also the 3 daughters of Irving Berlin. So, how does it start, and how long does it take you to actually really become familiar with someone that you will be playing on stage?
Well, it always starts, in the case of the composers that you mentioned, it starts with the music. That's what the story you want to tell. That's a story that's important to tell. And that's a story I've investigated to tell. So when it came to, you say, the Berlins, by that time I had become known for doing American composers and European composers. And the Berlin family actually wanted to meet me because they thought perhaps I could represent Irving Berlin in an interesting way. At the time, I didn't think there was much of a story because, like many people, they thought, oh, he was passé. He wrote God Bless America, a few other things, but jingles or not. Little did I know how much he contributed not only to America, but to world music. As Jerome Kern said, he said, Irving Berlin has no place in American music. He is American music. Wow. And I was invited to meet the 3 daughters, who I subsequently became very close friends with. One of them passed away. The youngest one died before the others. And Mary Ellen, for whom Blue Skies was written, blue skies smiling at me, nothing but blue skies. Mary Ellen is still alive, still kicking, still wonderful in New York. We visit and we communicate. It was wonderful to become part of that part of history, especially American history, being an immigrant from Canada via Poland and Hungary, or shall I say an immigrant to Canada from Poland and Hungary. And I shared that with Irving Berlin, the idea of coming to a country which is really not your own and making yourself a part of it by trying to contribute something. But meeting the family members and meeting the history and the people who performed these songs first and all the contributors, it's really amazing. And throughout, you realize how little one knows, considering all these geniuses who have contributed so much to art and the world and music and beauty.
Hershey, I was thinking as I was preparing for this interview about the restorers, and when they're restoring a work of art, be it a painting or a sculpture, the restorers never start with the face, for example, of David, but they do maybe his feet or his hands until they feel ready to, come up and clean the face of a particular subject. So does that happen to you, when you feel after a month of thinking of this and preparing and researching, when you actually are ready to say, okay, I can go on the stage with this?
Oh, when you've booked the theater and you better get your rear ends together. You don't have, oh, maybe I'll go out next week. You know what, it's not quite ready. No, you prepare for that. And after years of doing it, of course, you know what the process is. But the important thing is there's no shortcut to this process. There's no way to get to excellence and perfection by saying, oh, I'll be ready next week and do this, that, and the other thing. It's all part of a process. And the other thing I've learned is there's no shortcut. Everything is like starting from zero. Just with each new project, you know what you shouldn't do and you know what will not work, but you don't always know what will. And the process of really studying and working, like you talk about, first the feet, then the hands, and then so on, and working your way up to the head. And in this case, the essence of the character. My process is a little bit different. I try to understand the situation first. What situation have I put this character in? What music will I play? And it always begins with the music that I want to communicate, and the story about the music, and then how to go through the character. Then you go on stage and you fall flat on your face because that's the way it works, until you very slowly, very carefully find out how to make this character and the music live and breathe on the stage. And it doesn't happen in the first performance. I am actually terrorized. It's funny because I speak about a career that was 30 years in the making, but in the past 2 years, I've been on stage 4 times, whereas I was on stage every single night. So, but it's like riding a bike a little bit. I'll get to that in a minute. But the idea of going on stage and the idea of creating character and so on, it's never the first night and it isn't great. And in fact, when I go on and I have a premiere, and I've premiered 11 works in front of a large public every time I do a new play, and then they repeat, I always get very nervous when people come back and say, that was great, that was wonderful, this is really something, I really enjoyed it, because I know how much work there is still to do from your first performance. It's months and months until it really is in your bones and you really understand the character and how it's shaped and how it works. And also the important thing that I've felt in my career is not to rely on tricks. You know, there are a lot of actors who know their bag of tricks and know what they can draw on for each thing, or a lot of pianists who will do same kind of sound tricks or approaches to music. In my view, is each character, each musician deserves their own color. And I don't play Gershwin the way I play Chopin or the way I play Beethoven. Everyone has to be different. And even if it's not vastly different, like it's a different person, the evocation is different, because if not, then I'm not creating an aspect of character or a person. So all this to say that the process is long. You get on stage, you try a bunch of things, and you're terrorized that the audience is going to say, what are you doing up there? But you push forth. And somehow, after weeks and weeks and weeks of work in front of the audience, where you're thinking, something all of a sudden lets loose. And all of a sudden you're free to work, and you're free to do things, and you're free not to think about how do I do this, but you do it. And, you know, Chopin, as a teacher, always said, it's an amazing thing. You will work on something and struggle with it for months and months and months, and all of a sudden it will become easy. And it's very much true. And it literally is a snap of a finger, and you don't know why. The muscles relax and allow you to use the work that you've done to tell a story.
In your interview in Google, you said some wonderful things. One of them is that I am just a vehicle for doing this, for telling stories in music. And you also say, I take pictures from another world and present them to the public. So tell us more about that. You know, when you, how do you choose what moment of the story you want to say? So you say the music is the inspiration. Then how do these pictures come in?
Well, you know, there's imagination, but a lot of the work I do is based on history. So it's not historical drama per se, but we do know a perfect thing. I'm playing a lot this year, you know, and I think if we get back to the theater, I'm contracted to do this a lot, especially on the West Coast of California. And that is Monsieur Chopin, which is the Chopin play, which is very close to my heart. I live both in Florence and in Paris, although this year in Florence because of the pandemic. And know very well, and part Polish, and know the Chopin spirit and Chopin character very well. It's also my very favorite piano music to play. So the idea of how you choose a situation, what always fascinated me with Chopin was that, of course, he was with his lover, Georges Sand, the woman writer who was France's most famous woman, if anything, and really a revolutionary and a first feminist, certainly in France, went into public in pants and a top hat because not she wanted to make a difference and show fashion, but she wanted to be accepted in the reading rooms and in the libraries and the smoking rooms with all the men, to be able to discourse with the men as an equal. And also, I didn't know this, and this is just wild, but in France at the time, I think in Paris, so advanced, in Paris at the time, this is in the 1830s and 1840s, if a woman was not accompanied by a man, she was not permitted to sit in the orchestra, the parterre of the theater, which is really quite a situation, but it really shows us that, you know, gender issues, you know, even when we think they don't exist, they very much so do exist. And all these kind of issues exist in various forms even today. So this was something that fascinated me, that she was such a revolutionary, and she took to this little angelic little composer. Well, they had a very rough time and she threw him out. And that didn't end well. But in 1848, they bumped into each other once again at a piano lesson. He was leaving, she was coming in, and he was just completely befuddled. And I always wondered what happened at the piano lesson after he ran into this woman who he was so attached to, who just basically unceremoniously threw him out of the house a year before. What we learn is that, of course, he suffered from what we call today bipolar disorder, then it was called melancholia. And so he was that kind of artist. So it investigates all this kind of situation. The situation I put us in was that. Two former lovers running into each other in a situation whereby what happens next. So knowing that situation, I was able to create a theatrical construct to make such a situation work. And it does. And it's wonderful to communicate with the audience that it's actually, of all my plays to perform, it's the most fun because of what happens. You know, I mean, bipolar, it's fun. Can I tell you? No, of course not. No, it's most fun because he gets to engage with an audience in a very specific and meaningful way. And the heartbreaking part is we get to see his, you know, I don't want to say illness, his situation. You know, I'm not a doctor, so I can't call it illness. Other people can term it what is proper. But to me, it's heartbreaking to see his situation and the fact that there was, of course, no medication to look after it. And he was in a situation where it wasn't so well understood. And yet he came out with this composing that was just miraculous. So all these things put together, when you begin to understand the character, you understand how the evening unfolds.
You know, I guess with these extraordinary people, there is really no such thing as an ordinary life for them. I think there's a kind of fine line between the craziness and the genius, isn't that? Especially if you think of the composers in the 1800s.
Well, you know, one of the things about being in Europe at the moment is being where it happened, you know, being where the creativity took place, looking up at the sky and seeing, yeah, well, that's the sky that Michelangelo saw. That's the sky that Dante saw, you know, walked on these stairs. I know where that happened. So there's something, I've always felt closer to this part of the world than to America and Canada, although I made my career in America and love America and I'm close to it. Worry for it a lot nowadays because of what's going on in all kinds of ways. But, you know, to me as a child of immigrants, so really an immigrant, because I grew up in a home whereby, you know, we spoke languages, and not only languages. I see in a question chat, somebody says, how many languages do I speak? Well, I speak 8, and dirty words of 4 of them, you know. So I have all the dirty words in Hungarian because my grandmother thought it was most important before she left the world to teach me every filthy curse in Hungarian and would laugh. You know, as people get older, they find funny things and dirty stories. And so my grandmother, before she died, she thought it was the funniest thing to teach me filthy poems and filthy songs. So I have that in Hungarian and also the way to call food, you know, different types of meals. Then, you know, Russian for my characters I have because I play Tchaikovsky and Rachmaninoff, but my languages are English, my fluent languages are English, French, Yiddish and Hebrew, which are completely fluent because I come from old Europe, so to speak, and French Canada. So I grew up speaking French, but I studied French in lycée. So I was Parisian speaking, not Quebecois speaking, although I can do a mean Quebecois accent, especially with the poutine. Then when it comes to other languages, German for music and Italian, I live in Italy, so I speak Italian as well. And other than that, it's about 8 languages that I can maneuver around in, but fluent pretty much, communicative. I wouldn't say fluent, that's not fair. Fluent in 4, completely communicative in 6. So since you asked about languages, I keep on looking on our little chat, but feel free to ring in with questions. Yes. I love the questions.
You know what?
I get a 10 out of 10 on room rate for a beautiful evocative Zoom setting. No, it's just, it's dark in Florence and I got the lamp on in the back of the room. So, but thank you. That's very kind.
Hershey, I wanted to ask you, one of my guests in the studio was Betty Edwards, who wrote this incredible book called The Drawing on the Right Side of the Brain. And I was thinking, when you perform, it's such an all-immersive experience. And you have to play piano, you have to be really focused, of course, on the music. But then you also tell us this incredibly engaging story. So I wonder what happens in your brain. You use both sides, I guess, throughout the whole performance.
Well, I've been told that I use all sides of my brain, how many sides there are, because I also produce and I do the business side of it, and I also perform. But within the context of performance, one of the things that people don't really realize, they say, you play piano and you act and you tell stories, it's all natural. And no, in fact, it's so unnatural, because the muscles you use for all those things are different. The muscles you use for the piano, as I've always said, and it's fun to demonstrate it, of course I can't now, but it's fun to demonstrate in a theater, where I am talking to the audience while playing. And when I actually show them how I do it, they're like, how do you do that? First of all, you have to organize your brain so that it can play the music while you're talking in a completely different tempo. So your fingers are doing something, you're listening to the music with your ear, and my body is completely twisted because I'm turned like this to the audience, but the front of the body has to be to the keyboard. Otherwise you can't play. You can't cover yourself with sound. You have to keep your rhythm. You can't stop. This took a lifetime to learn. It was not something that happened, oh, look, he can do that. Oh, no. The other thing is acting is very much so overt. No matter what you do, no matter what artist, Laurence Olivier said the most fun thing about acting. He said, there are only 3 rules in acting. The first is look at me. The second one is look at me. And the third one is look at me. It's all overt. It's about showing off and getting attention. When it comes to music and the piano, the most important thing is you get up there, you're not playing for a public, you're not showing off. You are just at one with the music, and the public is listening, they're eavesdropping, so to say, on the music making. Those two things function in complete opposite ways. So the idea is, how do you make music and at the same time perform for the public? One is overt, one is introvert. If you show off at the keyboard, is the ugly sound. Everything is intimate at a keyboard, even if you're playing in front of a concerto, in front of an orchestra. So finding that balance and how to create the illusion between playing and acting and making the two things unified has been a lifetime study. And I will say, a good portion of the time I've gotten to the point where I'm okay, and some of the time I just fall flat in my face because that's the way it is. But I keep on getting up and taking a risk and seeing what I can do next, and just pushing the envelope a little bit.
Hershey, how different it is now that you're doing something very, very different. You're no longer the theater, there's 18,000 people singing along with you, but you're actually now making these movies, and you have no idea how your audience will react to them when they, see them on the big screen in their home all over the world.
The first one was very weird. It was Irving Berlin. I just see Brian, who's piped in, who says, we saw you live doing Irving Berlin in New York and online Beethoven. It must have been either at Town Hall or 59 East 59th, because I did big theater in New York, and then I did a small one, which was fun, a charming theater in 59 East 59th with Berlin. Beethoven online was also just an experiment. This was early in the pandemic, 15 months ago. No, wait, it's more, almost a year and a half ago, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, where we tried to do the Irving Berlin show live at 2 o'clock in the morning. And that was still concert style, theatrical. It was interesting because I told the story right to a camera. And people said, oh, it must have been so difficult not having an audience. I said, no, it's actually more interesting, because when you have an audience, you have 1,000 people in the house, and you have to make sure your eyes go everywhere, and you somehow have to reach them. The gestures are very big. It's not that you orate like this, but time is different. Time and how you reach the back of the house is different, and how a phrase lands is different, so that everybody can hear it. On camera, you can talk like you're talking to a person, and I treat the lens as if it's one person. And each person watching is at the other end of that lens. So it's far more intimate. And I love the intimacy of the lens because I can talk to a person. You don't have to be big and broad and somehow fill a stage and make it make sense and find balance and yet still feel natural. So finding the way to speak into a lens, strangely, was natural for me. I'd done it since I'm a kid, but doing 2 hours right into a lens of one story was not complicated. It was a lot of fun and a good time. Then we experimented a little with Beethoven, but as time went on, all of a sudden my film crew here in Italy, and the crew began to build, and the movie studio began to build, and suddenly had a movie studio, and suddenly we're producing movies, and suddenly we're all over Europe producing movies. And I thought, this is a nice way to tell stories. What's interesting is we're learning now is that there is a live audience, but there are a whole lot of people who also still want to see stuff at home, whether it's because they're still concerned about transmission or something like that, or whether it's because they're still concerned about just going out with people, or because they've discovered a whole new type of comfort, which is actually being at home, inviting 15 friends to the big screen at home and being able to share a theatrical experience that way. We have to think that, you know, National Theatre Live and Met Opera Live, you go to a theater and you watch it on the big screen. It's kind of the same thing. So this has been in existence. We're not doing anything new. I mean, this has been in existence. The question is if people decided that it's okay to stay in and maybe order pizza or whatever it is and have friends over and watch that and feel just as fulfilled. In terms of me, you know, as people know, the disease is still out there. And yes, people have to be masks. And of course, I'm vaccinated and so on. But I won't lie and say that I'm not quite concerned about going into a theater with 1,000 people. That's 8,000 people a week, 8 different, you know, being the only one who doesn't have a mask on and taking in a lot of air, because you do take in a lot of air when you perform. You have to breathe a lot and so on. And I'm courageous, so I'll do it because it's in my contract, but I won't say that somewhere at the back of my mind, I'm not a little concerned about stuff, if only because my experience for 30 years has been this. As I said earlier, the pandemic was the first time I've known what it's like not to actually be sick every 3 weeks. In my career from years, whether it's because I got on a plane, whether it's because I was shaking hands after, whether it was because I was just overexhausted. I found myself on penicillin 6 times a year at least, getting prednisone shots just to be able to open my throat. And once the pandemic started and I got hit with COVID very early because I was in Seattle, I was performing Seattle and everybody was sick there, where it full started. And that was my last gig. I got very sick when I got home. We didn't know what it was because we weren't talking about it yet. But after about 2 months, it took me about 5 weeks to get better. And after about 2 months, we began to see the symptoms be more specific. So I could identify the symptoms I had, which included sitting in a shower for 6 hours, quite literally, with boiling water pouring over me from like 3 o'clock in the middle of the night till 9 o'clock in the morning, because I could not get warm, difficulty breathing, all this kind of thing. And then I got better and I forgot about it. But then March happened. And so the point is, once I got better from that, I can only speak anecdotally. And I know in America, it's such a complicated thing with the masks and this and that. But for me, I can speak anecdotally that just not being exposed as much as I have been in my career, in my life, has given me the ability to be healthy for 1.5 years. I didn't know what this was like. I didn't know what it meant to live without a sore throat, without swollen glands, with, oh no, something's creeping in. I've got to do something about it. Do I call a doctor? Do I see somebody? Do I get a shot? What do I do? Just to be able to get up and perform. I've sung through the most horrible things. I mean, wretched illnesses where I shouldn't have been on stage, but I had a thing about canceling. And so with all this, being not sick for 1.5 years has been very, very important. I didn't know what this was like. So I won't say that I am not concerned about suddenly throwing myself into that kind of action again. You know, whether my system can fight that kind of stuff, I'm strong. I do what I need to do, knock on wood, but it's still of concern. So there is that.
You know, one of my questions I had here was, how did Florence change your life? And I think you just told us, it gave you a whole different way of existing in the world. And in return, you have given such an amazing gift to Florence to be able to, put the city out there, bring it to the living rooms of the people who watch your performances, as everything you do is filmed in Florence. And I have to say that I'm more than honored to have been part of your upcoming movie. Dante and Beatrice, in Florence, a musical film. Let's talk about that for a second. How about if we start by sharing a few of the images that you kindly sent me? Can we do that for a moment?
Oh yeah, I'll just say, so any of you in Paola Studiolo, beware if you come to Florence, I may sucker you in and put you in a movie.
Yes, all of a sudden people are much nicer to me, you know. They're probably hoping,
Oh, yeah,
oh my
yeah.
gosh, you know, one
Movie
day I can
star.
all interest, you know, all the friendships with interest.
It's
So
very
I
funny.
wanted to start here, which
Well, no, that's not me. That's Baldassare Castiglione.
yes, it's exactly. But there's a reason why he's there. I'm just trying to see how I can show this slideshow from the beginning. Eccolo. So here you have also hersheyfelder.net, and you will find all the information on this movie, but also all the upcoming season in 2022. And I just wanted to start with this one, Hershey.
What would you like to know?
Tell me a
I've
little bit
lost.
about this. Is this how you spent days working with Hila?
No, this is actually preparing for a scene that we were about to shoot. It's not just study. We were about to shoot the scene because this movie takes place in contemporary times and in Dante's time. There are two stories that mirror each other, and we both played Dante and Beatrice in old times and in new times. And they're a story that crosses time and love and all kinds of things. And it's musical, which was a lot of fun. So Hila's, of course, a famous singer and a famous opera singer. And there's a lot of original music in this, which has made it a lot of fun. So here we're actually preparing to shoot a scene on location in what is Dante and Beatrice's modern apartment.
Here you are getting ready.
Here is, you know, the horror of what you have to do at 6 o'clock in the morning. And funny people snap photos. This is not posed. This is literally me going, it's way too early, you know, and stop poking at me. But this is just before a day of shooting on location, where Tiziana, our wonderful makeup artist, is making sure that I look old and doing all kinds of funny things to my face.
Hershey, how hard it is to shake off the character once you're done filming?
2 seconds.
Really?
That's the craft. Well, that's the craft of doing it. I mean, I'm not the kind of actor, never would be, never not interested in being somebody who takes a character home and, you know, this kind of thing. That's not for me. That is, there are certain actors who work like that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm more technical, which is I know what I'm supposed to do. I know when I'm supposed to do it, and I do it. I don't, you know, do a Sturm und Drang about, you know, the drama for me has always been either in front of the camera or on the stage, but I try to eliminate as much drama the rest of the time. Doesn't matter, because when you're working in this field, there's always drama of some sort. So. Aha, this is Dante meeting with his associates in Florence. So this was just before shooting, and this was a bit of a production thing at the Palazzo Budini Gattai, which is literally right outside of the Accademia. So if you're in the garden of this palazzo, which is right by that window where I am sitting, not in character, this is just in costume, we're having a production meeting, you can see the cupola for David, Michelangelo's David, which is literally a few feet from where I'm sitting, which is kind of astonishing if you think about it.
Yes, truly. You showed it to me that day, and I thought, my gosh, unbelievable. Florence, you just when you think you know everything, the city, you know, surprises you with yet another layer of beauty.
But if you can you go backwards in the photo, because I want to show you something. So what you can't see is the lady who is sitting with the glasses on top of her head is Lila, our production manager, and right behind her is a painting that was painted in Michelangelo's day of Michelangelo, which is really kind of fascinating. Yes,
truly. Michelangelo's watchful eye, you know, all of that was happening underneath it. How about this?
This is directing a scene, a modern scene of what's going to happen. I'm showing the camera where he needs to go and what he needs to do and how he's going to capture me, because it's a musical sequence. And so I'm saying my hand is basically demonstrating where the lens should go and what we should capture and the movement of it, that Marco Dardari, who's the guy with the holding the Steadicam, who will shoot the scene thereafter.
I love this one.
Especially because you're in it. Now, if you will notice, put your cursor on yourself.
Here I am.
There she is. That's Paola. Paola is there and she's in the scene. And this is actually what I am sitting on is I vero sasso di Dante. Dante's actual stone that he's 700 years ago. Well, no, 725 years ago. Yeah. In 1296, he sat on that stone watching the Duomo being built. Now, in this case, the Duomo, if from where I'm sitting, the Duomo is to my left. And literally, if the camera were turned around and we turn this picture around, what you're staring at is the Duomo. But this is the Sasso di Dante. And now where the girls are sitting are at the restaurant called Sasso di Dante. Well, look, he needed to eat. So what do you want?
I loved it all. I loved the way that people were just stopping and looking at us for hours, thinking, what is
God, it
happening?
was fun.
Yeah,
it was fun. It was fun to have audiences all over the place. Yeah. It was like we were Disney, like Disney Florence, like it was, you know, all of a sudden Florence decided to do Disneyland and dressed us all up and put us out on the streets to entertain people. It was just the weirdest thing in the world.
And here you are in my favorite place in Florence, the Basilica of Santa Croce, where I spent 7 long years working there, day and night. Actually, it was quite extraordinary. How
and you should all know that because of Paola, we were able to film in this joint without anybody else, just us, just our crew, just our team. And it's because of your beloved Paola that we were able to do that. And she
not
made
at all, not at all.
It's true. So what a treat to be there alone and just be able to experience. It was a wild experience. It's very intimate. It's very personal. It's also very beautiful. And, you know, spending a lot of time in France, which I did before Florence and so much work there, the difference between, you know, the Gothic French church buildings and construction and the light Italian construction of churches is just magnificent. It's all about light and all about what filters through, not even chiaroscuro, it's just chiaro. And, you know, when you go to a French church, it really feels like you're in medieval hell. And here, you're just, it's always so light and so beautiful. So while I do gravitate to both, I have to say that my spirit kind of gravitates to the Italian lightness of this kind of stuff. At the moment, we are standing right in front of Michelangelo's tomb. So if you cross over this little barrier of rope here, right there is Michelangelo.
You know what's here? Next to him is, of course, Dante. You know, they're next to each other. And I have to say, James Ivory, who, of course, you know, filmed his wonderful A Room with a View in Santa Croce. He came to visit a few years ago because there was, I think, the 25th anniversary of the movie coming out. And he came to Santa Croce, and I thought he would maybe have 10 minutes to, you know, visit. And I said to him, how much time do you have? And he said, oh, I have about 2 hours. So just imagine walking with James Ivory around the church. And so, of course, I lifted the ropes and I had him stand by the monument to Dante. And as we were standing there, he was explaining how he did that scene, because there's actually a scene in the movie that they do just by Dante's monument. And people started coming to me. They said, well, can you please move away? Can you please move away, clear this? We want to take a picture of this tomb, having no idea that there's actually, you know, this amazing director standing right there telling us how it was to make this epic movie. So here you are, Hershey. I mean, just absolutely incredible. I really cannot wait to see the movie itself, to see how it all came together. I mean,
me too. That makes 2 of us.
And how about this one? This is an interesting one where, and here I am, look at me, I'm on my phone, and oh my gosh, this was the most incredible day that I will cherish for as long as I live.
This was totally nuts. You can't see what's going on around us, which is there are 500 people poking at us from all sides of this. And because this is a time traveling story, I put an accordionist in it, and clearly Paula's on the telephone, but there's no telephone in the scene. That's how do you call it? That's just Paula on a break there, making sure that her studiolo is going to take place or something. You know? And this is me describing how I expect a scene to work, and once we do it. And this is just the bridge that you see is Ponte Santa Trinita, where Dante and Beatrice met, and that has been memorialized in a 19th century painting, 600 years after it happened. But the point is that this is where we know that they met in 1296, 1294, something like that.
I just love how many connections you make to the past, to Dante's time, but also to romantic painters of the 1800s. I mean, there's so many layers to this movie, and of course also all the people who gathered around you in this case, and their stories and how they brought the character out. I think it's just extraordinary.
Indeed,
here we go.
Tracy mentions that it is Henry Holliday's painting, and that is of course absolutely the case. It is that painting, and if you look at the scene and you see it now, people were passing going, oh, I know that scene from somewhere. Where do I know it from? And it is actually Henry Holliday's painting. I'm just going to answer a couple of questions. I see them now. Tracy Kay says to everyone, yes, please. Okay. Then what inspired you?
Sorry, that was about coming to Florence and being a volunteer. Yeah, that was that.
Who said volunteer? Everybody gets paid. You
don't
volunteer,
okay.
but you get suckered in nevertheless. So I'll answer your next question, Tracy, which is what inspired you to write this piece? It's Dante's 700 years since he passed, everything Dante going on here. And funnily, a year ago, I mentioned, I think I should do something about Dante because I love Florence so much. And it's different reasons inspire different things, inspire different situations. And that's actually, it was that simple. It was, I'm a Florentine and I love Florence, and this is fascinating and I have a story to tell, so I'll do it. Where did the costumes come from? That's from Betsy. We have two designers on this project, and they, based on my drawings and inspiration and my script work, they put together the costumes, Camilla and Sol. And one of the wonderful things is that Florence is full of sartoria, which is places where they have these kinds of things that are not just Halloween costumes. It's just that, a couple times a year, people go dressed up as ancient characters from the city that they live in. And so you can find these things.
I absolutely love the scene and the way the traffic of Florence was just passing by us as they were attempting to do this.
It was totally nuts, but we got it.
Yes, and let's leave it to mystery to what is happening. What is Gila doing with her hands? We can leave that to those that will watch.
We're not gonna tell anybody.
Yes, we have to. And how about this one? I love this.
This is so funny. If you don't see, you see the leg of the person underneath. That's Trevor, one of my producers. It started to pour, and we were smack in the middle of the scene, but what it did was allowed it to be so gorgeous outside after, because the colors were so staggering. So we decided, rather than to go inside and wait for another hour, that we were going to wait on the hills of Florence, which is where Dante would have been meeting Beatrice, or writing. Actually, the scene is about writing, with such color and such beauty that we decided to let it rain and let the humidity take care of the colors. And it did. And then 10 minutes later, when we started shooting, it was the most gorgeous array of greens and golds and olive. And I mean, I've never seen anything like this in the world. And you understand why painters from Florence painted the way they did, because it's there, it looks like a painting. And so he's standing behind me. If we just photoshopped out his foot, you'd think this umbrella is kind of standing over Dante by itself. It's very funny.
Love it. And beloved olive trees, of course.
Ah, God, the olive trees, which didn't do so well this year. Tuscany didn't get a lot of olives. It was a lousy olive year, but next year promises to be a bounty crop, because it's usually every 2 years.
I love this one.
It's so silly. So this is Debbie Mazar, who's a friend, a famous actress. And I said, you want to do a cameo? Because she lives here in Fiesole. I said, you want to do a cameo in this? She says, what do you want me to do? I said, you need to tell Dante off. only one person gets to tell Dante off, and you've got the biggest mouth, so it gets to be you. And so we did this, and then as we were doing this, she said, let's do a selfie. I'm going to post it on my Instagram, and that's this. And she felt like a Disney Florentine princess walking around Florence. Very funny. So we just did a selfie between shots.
And I couldn't help it, but I had to put this in.
Well, I couldn't help it. It's just great. We did that on Ponte Santa Trinita, right on the corner there, on shooting break. And look how gorgeous Paula looks. And she has several costumes, Paula, and she appears in a whole bunch of scenes. She speaks, and she has actually a very good scene. I'm not going to tell you what happens, but she has a wonderful scene where she gets to be very emotional, and she does it spectacularly well.
Oh my gosh, Hershey, I think every day since we did that, I'm thinking, I just hope I didn't ruin the scenes that I'm in.
Nope.
Okay.
You did something really great at the end of one scene, and we won't tell your audience what that scene was. You did something so honest and so wonderful, and it closes the scene, and it's really, really good. It's fun. You'll get to see it. Yeah.
Okay, well, I can't wait. I can't wait for this to come out, and I can, see myself. I'm grateful for the opportunity. It was absolutely incredible to dress up and to be dressed in the 15th century costume. And one of the documents I found in the archives in Florence, which I will never forget, it was the day I came to visit the archives here, and the archivist told me, here's a box, and no one has ever opened this box of letters. There's so much of the Florentine Renaissance there that there was actually almost like a shoebox filled with different pieces of paper. And she said, just pick any. And so I pick up this old letter. It turns out to be a letter from Contessina dei Bardi, who ended up marrying Cosimo the Elder de' Medici. And she's actually writing to a friend and basically telling the friend that she is sending her the feathers of like a goose feathers for her new pillows. What an interesting window to their life, isn't it? Like, this is going to be the gift you send to your dear friend. And as I put this costume on, I thought I could be Contessina, and I could be preparing to, ship these feathers for someone's pillows, later on that same day. So it was just absolutely incredible experience, Hershey, and I'm very grateful for it.
Sure. Let me answer. You have a couple questions. Somebody loves the stills, looking forward to the production, by all means. So if you go to hersheyfelder.net, you'll find the production, and we air. The premiere is next Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific and 8 p.m. Eastern. But of course, it's continuously playing. You can find it. Hershey, who's next? Next is Mozart. Well, we start filming Mozart in 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, something like that. And then here we have Deborah. That said chills of excitement. Well, that's wonderful. So Mozart starts very soon, and it's just great fun. It's great fun to share with all of you. And if anybody has any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Anybody? I'm looking.
Actually, I do have one more. You probably thought I'm in the wrong PowerPoint when you saw this, but I actually did want to end up with this beautiful portrait by Raphael of Baldassare Castiglione. This is kind of a male equivalent of Leonardo's Mona Lisa. And Baldassare wrote this incredible book, The Courtier, in which he describes kind of what a perfect Renaissance gentleman should be. And he introduces this word sprezzatura. And I wanted to bring this actually tonight, because I think you actually, if there was a modern day courtier, you would fit that role so well, Hershey, because you make people learn when they're in your company. They feel at ease. They always learn something new. You can converse to anyone in actually 8 languages. And everything that you do with sprezzatura, a term that Baldassare invented, which basically means making very, very complicated things look effortless. And I think when you do sit at a piano and you're on the stage, everything seems like, you maybe rehearsed it a few times, and here you are telling us a story of someone's life. But you have that way of hiding actually how difficult and how many years of mastering a skill took.
That's the result. But somebody's suggesting here in your questions, I should think about doing Baldassare Castiglione. Most certainly, if I can wear the costume. It's a nice costume. But there's that question. When you're in production, are you already thinking about your next subject? And so the answer is not really, because I usually focus on but then I'll take 2 hours to say, okay, I have to go to the next thing. When I was in the theater, we would be performing at night and rehearsing something else during the day. Totally crazy. And then where will you be filming the Mozart piece? Well, this is interesting. We're supposed to film, of course, in Austria, but I don't think we're going to. So we're going to have various places such as Prague and here. In fact, the Palazzo Gianfigliazzi will double as our ducal palace in Austria, because I think everything is going to be locked down. Austria has said that 20 days they're having a lockdown. And what's frightening is that this is possible. It's coming. Tuscany, we're pretty safe. Safe. Tuscany, we're pretty good with numbers at the moment, so we don't know. But Germany is a disaster and Austria is a disaster. And who knows? You don't know what's going to happen. So we also don't know if we can get into any of the places in Austria that we were supposed to get in, for a simple reason that it'll be locked down, and it's apparently a pure lockdown, like a real one. Now, it ends just before we're supposed to film. So we don't know yet what the situation is, but we'll, either way, we have backup and places to go. Hershey has loads of sprezzatura. Oh, that's coming. Oh, she's so nice. A sort of nonchalance in a good way. Well, we love Kavi because she's such a beauty. And so anybody else?
I have a question. So this sort of follows up on Paula's question. And this comes without flattery. You're an extraordinary person with extraordinary talent. And again, I'm not trying to flatter you, but that also kind of puts you in a level where it's hard to find peers. And I just wanted to ask you,
Yes, it's true.
is that difficult for you, or do you have peers, or
Well, one of the it's funny, this forum that we have where I'm talking openly and easily with everybody, it's a natural forum for me because I have a guide, in Paula, and a story to tell, but I'm very much a loner. I'm not, people always say they come to the house for dinner, 30 people at once, and where's Hershey? I'm in the kitchen cleaning the dishes, because somehow I like putting the entertainment together and making it happen. The rest of the time, I'm very much a loner. You need to be in order to do this amount of work. I'm not somebody who flits by and does all this kind of thing and, want to be social butterfly and go out, and not at all. More studious, more centered on getting things to be better and so on, frightened that I'm not living up to the situation, enough always. So I don't think of it in terms of peers, because I just think of what I have to do. And I also think of it in terms of responsibility. When the pandemic started, the notion was one of two things. I've been working for 30 years nonstop. This would be a good time to take a break. However, I have a staff of 10 people who produce with me. So how do I say to them, okay, you guys, good luck, go on to, whatever $600 you're getting from the government, and, live well and good luck. And I felt I needed to maintain my responsibility to keep the staff employed and paid. And so it's really not about peers, it's really about responsibility. I don't think about peers or not peers. It's funny, I don't think very highly of myself, not that I think poorly of myself, but I don't think of myself as important or necessary. I think of myself as somebody who's a hard worker. I also think of myself, if I will say anything about myself, I am a responsible person. Is that if I have to deliver something, I will deliver it, because it would kill me not to. So that takes a lot of work. And sometimes I fail, sometimes, other people might not think so, but sometimes I just fail, and I'm not able to deliver what I promise. And that feels terrible. So I don't want to feel that way. So my life has become about a lot of hard work, but I'm okay with that. I'm fine. The questions now are really about health and how I can manage being with the public and not getting sick. And I don't mean COVID sick. I mean, just really not getting a bad cold and not getting a sore throat, because I don't have the luxury of being able to stay home and say, you know what, I don't feel like work today, I'm taking off. I don't have that luxury. So I have to balance and figure this out now. And it's a little complicated, but I'll get there.
You know, Hershey, drawing a parallel back to Renaissance again, you know, when you think of Michelangelo, every time he has a new project, Michelangelo freaks out. And, you know, there's the pages of his diary when the Pope gave him the ceiling to paint. And he kind of goes in and he says, I'm not a painter, I cannot do this, it's big, it's huge. And he goes on, you know, for years. And at the end, when it's all completed and all done, he actually just writes one sentence in his diary and he says, I finished the ceiling, the Pope is satisfied. That's it.
You see, but the story that tells is so brilliant. I finished the ceiling, the Pope is satisfied. You know, it could have also ended, you know, I finished the ceiling and the Pope is not so pleased. So, at least the Pope was happy. There's another question from Sarah. Okay, Sarah wants to see everything we've done. Well, if you go to hersheyfelder.net, what you get to do, and if you just sign on to a season pass, you get to sign on to all 11 shows of last season, all the new ones this season, for quite not a high price. So we all have so much, and so happy that you've done this film. Also appreciate Florence as your place of light. When did you first make Florence home and why? Okay.
Hershey, just a quick intro to say Sarah Morrison was actually a consul general in Florence a few years back.
From where though?
So it comes from a very special person who has a Florence in her heart. She's
Wonderful,
from West Virginia.
Well, so you were an American consul general.
Exactly.
Okay, so you know that beautiful place on what is it on the Corsi? Is it Via Corsi or something like this over there, right?
Lugano, you mean Lugano Guicciardini? You mean with the consulate?
No. Where the consulate is now.
Yes.
Where the
Lugano
consulate.
Guicciardini. Yes.
Oh, is it Guicciardini? Okay.
Amerigo
Which one is it?
Amerigo Vespucci.
Vespucci, yes. Okay. Oh, nice to see your face. All right. So to answer your question, Florence, I was in France. We were in France, and I was looking to build some form of studio 10 years from now, a film studio, when I retired from the stage, or at least